Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, O Lord.
When they came to the place that is called the Skull, they crucified Jesus there with the criminals, one on his right and one on his left. Then Jesus said, God forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. And they cast lots to divide his clothing. And the people stood by watching, but the leaders scoffed at him, saying, He saved others, let him save himself if he is the Messiah of God, his chosen one. The soldiers also mocked him, coming up and offering him sour wine and saying, If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself. There was also an inscription over him, This is the King of the Jews. One of the criminals who were hanged there kept deriding him and saying, Are you not the Messiah? Save yourself and us. But the other rebuked him, saying, Do not fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we indeed have been condemned justly, for we are getting what we deserve for our deeds. But this man has done nothing wrong. Then he said, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. He replied, Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
You may be seated. This week, I returned from the Next Generation Leadership Initiative, NGLI, and their Vitality trip. As a refresher, NGLI is a continuing education program that I'm in through the UCC that pays for 4 years of programming and 2 years of self-directed study. The second year trip always focuses on vitality. This year they revamped the whole field trip and brought us to Chicago. During our time, we met with folks doing vital ministry, as well as worship in 3 different settings: a Friday night synagogue service, a more traditional Sunday worship service, and a Sunday evening bar church service. We spoke with pastors who have planted churches, as well as other pastors who are experimenting with what it looks like to be the church in the world. The overall goal of the trip was to develop a clearer understanding of vitality and to enliven us as pastors to bring back a message of vitality to the congregations we serve. Let me be clear. Vitality doesn't mean that we need to be a radical bar church like the one we worshiped at on the trip. Although it was a really cool service. It also means what we do here at church, not just on Sunday mornings. Vitality is what happens whenever a community worships, but it's also about the whole life of the church and its engagement within the community. Throughout the whole week, I kept saying, I serve a vital church. And I truly mean it. You all make this church vital. You make it what it is. You bring your energy, your commitment, and your love to this place, and because of all that you do, this church is vital. We are doing important work that is life-changing for folks here within the community. Just one thing that we are doing is that we are working on the Reconciling in Christ process, which to some of you might not seem like a big deal, but in the reality of many people's lives that have been hurt by the church, the RIC label is vital. It's life-changing for someone who has been told that God doesn't love them because of who they are or who they love. It tells them that they can come to our church and they will receive a message of love and will be welcomed without bounds. Another thing of how we engage in the community is these gifts that we give. Every Christmas, these baskets. I remember sitting up in my attic last year working on packing, getting a text from Denise saying, we just gave out 20 baskets for Christmas. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. She said, we do it every year. I'm like, that is amazing. That is amazing to do that every year, not just a one-time thing. That is vital to the community. So as we went through our time together over this week, we were creating working definitions or images of what vitality looks like. And midway through the week, the image of a heart monitor with the beeps up and down connected with some of us for what it means to be vital. The heart is, after all, a vital organ. If you think of the heart, it's a strong muscle and is literally spreading life throughout our bodies. contract and release in order to function correctly. It can't constantly be contracted, and it can't constantly be released or at rest. The pulsing energy pushes it throughout the body, and then it has to pause for a moment to rest. In the life of the church, we need both the pulse of energy and the pause of rest. Sometimes we have new initiatives and programs and events, and we put them together, and they are amazing, and they're fun. And then there are times that we need to slow down, or at least take time to slow down if we aren't. We need to analyze what works and what doesn't. We need to look at what we might need to change or new ideas that we might have. And if we're going to implement something new, we need to let something else go. The thing is that society doesn't naturally allow for rest, so we have to create it. We have to make time and space for this in our lives. The heart beats without thinking about it, but to be a vital church, we have to allow for work and rest, actively thinking about the steps to keep us going. We can't all do everything. Just like if we push our bodies to the breaking point, it will make us physically ill sooner or later, forcing us, essentially, to rest. Believe me, I was almost to that point this week, having to, let a couple things go. Vitality comes from the community as a whole. No one person is responsible for it all. We keep the church alive and healthy together. The awesome thing about Vitality is that the energy it has spreads. It was almost contagious being around these other pastors doing the amazing things that they're doing in their churches this week. And it awakened in us a new sense of energy and excitement for our churches too. Returning from this trip, I don't magically have all the answers that's going to save our church. I do, however, bring back hope and joy and a clearer perspective of a vital church. Here's just a few threads that I saw running through the churches that we engage with and the things that I learned. Vital churches are connected and engaged with the community. They have active music ministries. They work through conflict and difficulty because of it, they come out stronger on the other side. They are honest with each other. They aren't afraid to try new things and fail. They work together for the betterment of the community and the congregation. They let go of what's not serving them. They're unabashedly themselves, and they have fun together. I just want to say a little note about trying new things and failing. One of the kind of other threads throughout the week that showed vitality is vitality doesn't mean that we never fail. And every person we met with was invited to share a spectacular failure with us. And guess what? They're all still going. Here's the good news. We are doing a great job as a church doing vital ministry already. We have events for the wider community, as well as we do fun things for our own church family. We are stretching and growing and challenging ourselves in ways that we have may have never imagined, and we are caring for each other and those in the community while doing so. We have a beautiful choir, and we sing old and new hymns. We have a community that always has room to grow. And all of this is a part of life and vitality. And overall, we are doing it pretty well. I hope you feel a sense of pride in your church, in our church, and this place, knowing that you are a vital part of it. Together we can do so much. No one person makes the church, and no one person creates vitality. Together we are vital. Another quick image of vitality that became clear at the end of the week was the image of fire, a fire pit, and all the work that goes into it. And I was sharing about this trip this week with other pastors, and I was introduced to this story that I want to leave you with. I pray that it may remind you of vitality and all that can be done together. So this is titled The Lonely Ember by Dr. John MacArthur. A member of a certain church who previously had been attending services regularly stopped going. After a few weeks, the pastor decided to visit him. It was a chilly evening. The pastor found the man at home alone, sitting before a blazing fire. Guessing the reason for his pastor's visit, the man welcomed him, led him to a big chair near the fire, and waited. The pastor made himself comfortable but said nothing. In the gray silence, he contemplated the play of the flames around the burning logs. After some minutes, the pastor took the fire tongs, carefully picked up a bright burning ember, and placed it to one side of the hearth all alone. Then he sat back in his chair, still silent. The host watched all this in quiet fascination. As the one lone ember's flame diminished, there was a momentary glow, and then its fire was no more. Soon it was cold and dead as a doornail. Not a word had been spoken since the initial greeting. Just before the pastor was ready to leave, he picked up the cold, dead ember and placed it back in the middle of the fire. Immediately, it began to glow once more with the light and warmth of the burning coals around it. As the pastor reached the door to leave, his host said, "Thank you so much for your visit, and especially for the fiery sermon. I shall be back in church next Sunday." I pray that we all have that burning ember within us, and that we together will keep the flame of vitality alive here at Holy Council. Amen.